The rain came down in sheets that night, the kind that makes you question every choice that led you to be outside in it. Sarah stood under the flickering streetlight at the bus stop, watching the water cascade off the broken shelter above her head. Her scrubs clung to her skin, still damp from the 12-hour shift at County General. She'd held the hand of a dying man today, a stranger whose family never came. His last words were about someone named Alice, and Sarah had nodded and said, "Yes, I'll tell her." Even though she had no idea who Alice was or how to find her, sometimes kindness means letting people leave this world, believing their final wishes will be honored. The 47 bus was late again. 30 minutes now, and her phone was dead, and the diner across the street had closed 10 minutes ago, its neon sign blinking off like a candle being snuffed out. Sarah pulled her thin jacket tighter and thought about her daughter, Emma, probably asleep on their neighbor Mrs. Chen's couch by now. 7 years old and already so used to. Mommy working late that she'd packed her own overnight bag without being asked. That's when she saw her. The woman was maybe 70, maybe 80, it was hard to tell. She was shuffling down the sidewalk in house slippers that squelched with each step, wearing nothing but a thin nightgown that the rain had turned transparent. Her white hair hung in wet ropes around her face, and her arms were wrapped around herself, like she was trying to hold her own pieces together. Sarah stepped out from under the shelter. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The woman looked up, her eyes unfocused, clouded with confusion. "I'm looking for my daughter," she said. "She was just here. We were making dinner. Pot roast. She loves pot roast." "Ma'am, it's 11 o'clock at night." "Let's get you out of this rain." The woman shook her head vigorously. No, she's waiting for me. I just need to find her." Sarah recognized that look. She'd seen it in the faces of patients on the dementia ward. That desperate certainty that the present moment is actually 30 years ago, that the people they're searching for are still waiting somewhere, just around the corner. She took off her jacket and draped it around the woman's shoulders, even though it was already soaked through. "What's your daughter's name?" Sarah asked gently. "Margaret. She's 7 years old. She has red ribbons in her hair." Sarah's heart cracked a little. 7 years old, the same age as Emma. "Okay, let's go find Margaret together. But first, let's get you somewhere warm and dry, and then we'll look for her." She should have called 911. That would have been the smart thing. The safe thing, the thing that wouldn't derail her, entire night and make her even later to pick up Emma, but something in the woman's face stopped her. Maybe it was thinking about her own mother, gone 5 years now from breast cancer. Maybe it was imagining Emma at 70, confused and lost in the rain, hoping someone would choose to be kind. The woman let Sarah take her arm. "Do you know where I live?" Sarah asked. "Of course I do. I'm not senile." The woman's voice carried an edge of indignation that made Sarah want to smile despite everything. "It's the blue house, with the rose bushes." In a city of 1 million people, that wasn't much to go on, but Sarah started walking anyway, guiding the woman down the street, scanning house numbers, looking for any clue. Her own feet were screaming in her shoes, and she was so tired she could feel it in her teeth, but she kept moving. They walked for 20 minutes before Sarah saw a police cruiser idling at a stoplight. She flagged it down, and the officer who stepped out was young, maybe fresh out of the academy, with kind eyes and an immediate understanding of the situation. "We've been looking for her," he said. "Mrs. Dorothy Chen. She walked out of her home about 2 hours ago. Her son's been frantic." Chen. The same last name as Sarah's neighbor. The universe was smaller than anyone wanted to believe. The officer called it in, and within 10 minutes, a man in his 50s came running down the street, his face a map of relief and exhaustion. "Mom, oh God, Mom!" Dorothy Chen's face transformed when she saw him. "Thomas, what are you doing here? Where's Margaret?" Thomas gently took his mother's hands. "Mom, Margaret is fine. She's at home, remember? She's grown up now. She has kids of her own." For just a moment, clarity flickered in Dorothy's eyes, like a light switching on in a dark room. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh, that's right." Thomas turned to Sarah, and there were tears running down his face. "Thank you. I've been driving around for hours. She's been getting worse lately, and I thought I'd locked all the doors. But she must have—" He couldn't finish. Sarah shook her head. "I'm just glad she's safe. You stayed with her." In the rain. You could have just called someone. So could you, Sarah said. But you didn't. You drove around for hours looking for your mom. That's what love looks like. The officer offered Sarah a ride home, and she accepted gratefully. As they pulled up to Mrs. Chen's apartment building, Sarah realized what she'd missed all this time. Mrs. Chen, her neighbor, the woman who watched Emma at least twice a week, who never asked for payment, who always sent Emma home with cookies, was Dorothy Chen's daughter-in-law, Margaret Chen, who had to be Emma's Mrs. Chen, even though Emma always called her that. Sarah knocked on the door at midnight, and Mrs. Chen answered with Emma asleep in her arms. Her eyes were red from crying. "Thomas just called me," Mrs. Chen whispered. "He told me what you did. For my mother-in-law." "For Dorothy. I didn't know she was your family," Sarah said. "I would have called you right away if I'd—" Mrs. Chen shifted Emma gently to her shoulder and pulled Sarah into a one-armed embrace. "You stayed with her. When she was lost and scared, you stayed with her. That's everything." The next morning, Sarah woke up to find her car had been detailed and her gas tank filled. There was a note on her windshield in shaky handwriting. "For the kindness you showed a stranger who was once someone's little girl. Dorothy Chen and Margaret and Thomas and Emma's friend Mrs. Chen." But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, Sarah's application. For the nursing scholarship she'd applied for 18 months ago, the one she'd almost forgotten about, the one that would let her finish her RN degree, was approved. She didn't know that Thomas Chen sat on the hospital board, or that he'd quietly asked HR about the nurse who'd stayed in the rain with his mother, or that when her application came across his desk in the normal course of things, he'd remembered her name. Sometimes kindness is its own reward. Sometimes it comes back to you in ways you never expected. But most of the time, kindness is just a choice you make in a moment when no one's watching. When you're tired and wet and late, and you have every reason to look away. It's choosing to see someone else's humanity when it would be easier to see a problem. It's remembering that everyone who's old was once young, everyone who's lost was once found, and everyone who seems like a stranger is someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone's whole world. Sarah never did catch that bus, but she found something better on that rain-soaked night. A reminder that the smallest acts of compassion ripple outward in ways we can't predict or measure. That staying matters. That seeing someone matters. That being the person who stops, who helps, who cares. That matters most of all. And somewhere in the city, an old woman with white hair sits in her son's living room, holding her granddaughter's hand, occasionally looking toward the window where rain falls in sheets. In her clearer moments, she remembers a younger woman with kind eyes who once stood with her in a storm, who didn't walk away, who treated her not like a problem to be solved, but like a person to be protected. In those moments, Dorothy Chen smiles, because she remembers what it felt like to be lost, and she remembers what it felt like to be found. And she knows, with the deep certainty that transcends confusion, that somewhere out there, someone made the choice to be kind when they didn't have to be. That someone chose love when they could have chosen convenience. That someone chose to stay.